Hello, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. Saturday night here on a day where we went from temperatures in the low 70s where I am in central Long Island to the upper 40s. In fact, let me just really quick show you. Number 47. Basically went from 72 to 47 in a matter of about 3 hours. So we had a 25-degree temperature drop when this backdoor cold front came through. I'm going to get to that backdoor cold front in a moment because there's a lot going on that's far more serious than this temperature drop that we occurred here. So I wanted to start off. We're going to take a look at all the watches and warnings that are up at the moment, and there are quite a few of them across the United States east of the Rockies. For one thing, we've got blizzard warnings up still for much of northeastern Nebraska on up into the eastern part of South Dakota, the southern half of Minnesota, into a few areas in northern Wisconsin, also into northwestern Iowa. Winter storm warnings extend across Wisconsin through the state of Michigan, both the upper and the lower peninsula. Only the far south is in winter weather advisories, and there are going to be some areas here that are going to wind up with a serious ice storm, a serious to severe ice storm out of this. And particularly if you happen to be on tonight, if you're in the part of Canada that's east of Michigan and north of Lake Erie and north and west of Lake Ontario, serious icing is going to occur, serious to severe icing that is going to occur overnight and on Sunday. We have ice storm warnings up for a good chunk of western New York and even some winter storm warnings up east of Lake Ontario. Winter weather advisories extend through much of New York State except the extreme south, and also for western New England and down into central New England, even into northern Connecticut, north of Route 84. Across the south, in the warm sector, we've got flood watches up for West Virginia on up into western Pennsylvania. That's more for later on in the forecast period, but we're dealing with that now with flood watches and flash flood warnings in the dark red, and in the yellow we have a tornado watch that continues through the central Gulf states. So we've had this has created quite a severe weather outbreak that started last night, and that outbreak continues tonight. So we're going to take a look at what's happening across the radar. And let's start with, I'm going to start here. This is the area that is now moving through. It's north and west of the flood watch area that we have up in the Appalachians, but you can see some of the heavier rains that are streaming up through northern Tennessee and on northward from there into eastern Kentucky and into southern Ohio. We've got precipitation now moving into western New York. That is a lot of that is freezing rain. I'm going to jump over to one of the other radars here. Hang on one second, folks. I don't have everything as preloaded on my home screen as I do on my computer at work. So this is just going to take me half a moment here. I didn't realize I didn't have the U.S. radar up. So I'll bring up the severe the severe weather outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. And here it comes. So it's almost there, folks. Hopefully all of you have had a terrific Saturday. And if you were in my neck of the woods, you got to enjoy many areas, getting to enjoy another incredible day here with respect to temperatures that wound up in the 70s and 80s. Okay, so here's the severe weather tonight. The remnant box in red, the watch box as we call it, the tornado watch box in red, we have the slight risk and enhanced risk. The enhanced risk is the area that pretty much is where the tornado watch is up. Marginal risk that runs up into eastern Tennessee and extreme southeastern Kentucky. And of course, as you look north and west of there, back up through Illinois and on up through Wisconsin, and then looping back westward, that is the upper air reflection there of the storm, the big storm here that is moving out of the Central Plains now and heading across Iowa and eventually up into Illinois. So this is where we're getting the heavy snow and blowing snow, and visibility is down to near zero. It's been quite the blizzard across the Central Plains and on up now into parts of the upper Midwest. Southern Minnesota getting hit particularly hard. Looks like a foot plus of snow is going to fall throughout, in Minneapolis out of this. Was looking at some of the posts from my friends that are up there that know the weather in that area far better than I do. Here's just want to go back to this radar look here, and you can see the precipitation that is moving up through Wisconsin, all of this in the winter storm warning area, and a lot of this is in the form of sleet and freezing rain. So it's very, very serious icing situation here. It can't really be overstated just how serious that icing is going to be in some areas. So let me now, I think this is probably a good time. I'm going to bring up that backdoor cold front. Where did it go? Because we had it go through here a while ago, and it was just amazing. Did I lose it? I'm sorry, I'm a little disorganized tonight, so I'm going to try this again. I thought I had it there. And there we go. Okay, so this is what it looked like about 6 o'clock tonight, and the backdoor front at this point had run westward across Long Island and southern Connecticut. You can see the temperatures here were in the 40s and 50s. I've since dropped down. I'm down to 47 now, where you see that 52 is about where I am in central Long Island. That backdoor front has now pushed its way southward, but at that time, it was still in the upper 70s and low 80s throughout much of eastern Pennsylvania, southern New Jersey. You can see these low 80s here, and of course, now this is gradually becoming history as this is all getting taken away as that front continues to push southward. So a lot of radical changes in the weather going on all over the eastern half of the United States. So why don't we take a look at what the weather models are doing with this going forward, because it's we're going to have a couple of crazy days here to get through for Sunday into Monday. We'll bring up the latest GFS model. And there we go. So we got the eastern U.S. up here. So and we'll start at the moment. And there's your low center now moving through east central Illinois. Actually, the low is into northwestern Missouri. That lead low is just, it's kind of jumped. The center is sort of jumping eastward, and it dies out and reforms. And you basically got this east-west band north and east of the low center, the freezing rain, the snow running up back westward across Michigan into Wisconsin. Then it changes over to snow in northern Wisconsin, and you can see the dark blue shadings in southern Minnesota. All of that very heavy snow still going back into southeastern South Dakota and into eastern Nebraska. This thing is just really taking a long time to move along. And going into tomorrow morning, the weather front in the east at this point is all the way down into the Delmarva Peninsula. And we are going to see freezing rain across upstate New York in through New England, central New England, with snow on the northern fringe of that in Vermont and New Hampshire. That line, by the way, may wind up being a little further south. The southern edge of the 32-degree line may wind up being further south. I'm going to be watching temperatures very, very closely tonight. But tomorrow morning, low pressure will be sitting in western Ohio. There'll be some severe weather overnight that'll move across Alabama into Georgia. And then the severe weather axis will shift into the southeastern part of the United States on Sunday as the low finds its way into northeastern Ohio. Near blizzard conditions probable tomorrow in parts of northeastern Wisconsin and in the upper peninsula of Michigan. You've got the ice in northern Michigan, and ice over into New England and in upstate New York. And gradually warmer air is going to come up northward, and we're going to be dealing with some heavy rains here in the eastern part of the United States starting Sunday night, later Sunday night into Monday morning. Really get crashed with some heavy rain here on the GFS as a low center moves almost north. Actually, just it's the reflection now of the upper low as the whole upper air trough just kind of goes negative here. So you're getting tons of moisture flying up the eastern seaboard. Heavy rains for eastern Pennsylvania into New Jersey and southern New England. This is Monday afternoon. At this point, the weather front should be moving out, and we're going to start to see weather conditions improve in the east. But this was really, from the standpoint of spring storms, this is a powerhouse that we're seeing here. Haven't seen one like this in April in quite a while. I was kind of racking my brains trying to recall the last time we saw something like this, but extremely impressive here. As far as total accumulation, total precip accumulation is concerned, large area of 2 to 3 inch rains here throughout the Northeast. On back westward into western PA and Ohio, down into West Virginia, where we've got those flood watches up, and also in the area where we have the flood watches up now, showing 2 to 4 inches of rain running from southeastern Louisiana northeastward across Mississippi and into central Tennessee. And then, of course, back in through Wisconsin, the upper peninsula of Michigan, northern Michigan, back into Minnesota. Of course, this is all snow or mostly snow, and it's in the order of a foot or more. The snow map is a little bit difficult to negotiate because of the fact that it's picking up as on the areas that are getting mostly ice out of this, and kind of looking at the precip and interpreting as snow. It's supposed to be snow and sleet on this map. It includes sleet. But you can see where it is all snow. This is additional snowfall on top of what's already fallen in the order of 6 to 12 inches back in the areas where we have the blizzard warnings. And of course, it's going to be hard to figure what we're talking about in terms of ice. But some of the models that I saw with respect to ice accumulations showing ice accumulations of up to an inch or more. That is substantial. And it particularly hits the area east of Michigan on the Canadian side, north of Lake Erie and northwest of Lake Ontario, including Toronto, very hard with this icing situation. So just bear that in mind. This is a very serious ice storm for some areas, particularly given the time of year, mid-April, and we're talking about an ice storm. That I find amazing. It's been, I really can't remember the last time something like that has occurred. So very, very crazy storm here, folks. Extremely wound up for this time of year. Now, just to go back, just to take a look at what's happening in the west, because we do have another system coming into the west with heavy rains and snows into the northwest and into the northern Rockies. There's another low that's going to be coming out later this week. Doesn't look like it's going to do too much, but it is going to bring perhaps another round of snow and possibly some heavy snows into some of the areas that are getting it now in parts of Wisconsin and Minnesota and in through Iowa and through the Great Lakes. That low goes north and east of me with a cold front on Thursday. Doesn't look like it amounts to too much. And then another cold high builds in. And here comes another low that takes a bit of a southern route across the country as we move toward the end of the week and into next weekend. And at least on this particular model run, it does develop a low along the Jersey coast here next Sunday night into Monday morning, and then takes its time lifting it away to the north and east. The pattern overall, as we've been saying, is going to get blocky next week. So that would tend to favor a southern track. Now, it may wind up being further south than this. I really didn't get a chance to look at all the models. We'll give a quick look at the European model tonight and take a look at what that's doing with the next one. And this is, for next weekend. And the European actually, looks like it has a much weaker system that winds up going to our west. So perhaps the European is not showing as strong a blocky signature as the other models are. In fact, it looks like it wants to take that first low for the middle of next week into Ohio and then attempt to redevelop it off the Delaware coast. So perhaps the European is suggesting that the blocky signature this week will be stronger during the week and then weaken during next weekend. So let's take a look at what the upper air is doing on jet stream. And we'll rush it back a little bit here. All right, here's our storm now, that wrapped up upper air low. You see how the low just cuts off in a big way, and the whole upper low just lifts up with that negative axis, northwest, southeast. That's, whenever you see that, that is always a signature on the upper air of a very, very strong system. Now here's your blocking high, by the way, on the European. A bit of a blocking high up in northeastern Canada over Hudson Bay. So that's probably why the model is forcing that low later this week to go to our south. And then as we move through the weekend and into next week, the block breaks down. So this could be why the European is doing what it's doing. We'll take a look at the GFS, because I'm guessing that the GFS has a different idea on how the upper air evolves going into next week. But again, watch that. Here's that trough with that major storm that we're seeing now ripping through the Midwest, on lifting up northeastward. That blocking high signature is there on the GFS. You can see it over the western areas of Hudson Bay, but it seems much weaker with it than the European is. And then it actually rebuilds it in northeastern Canada, which the European does not do for next weekend and into early next week. So apparently the European has the stronger upper high early, weakens it and makes it disappear late, and the GFS is the reverse, where it has a weaker blocky signature at the going into this week and actually strengthens the blocky signature as we go into next weekend. Pretty much opposite of what the European is doing, and as a result, you wind up with a totally different idea of where we're going with this going forward. Quickly, we're going to look at weather across in Europe, which we mentioned yesterday wasn't really looking like it was all that crazy. There wasn't too much happening. Looks like the pattern in Europe is taking more of a springtime look. There wasn't a whole lot of snow going on. Let me just make sure, do I have the right preset map? And I'm guessing that I do. And yes, so you can see how we have a storm that's moving through, a storm system that's moving east of Ireland on Sunday with rain over the British Isles, and then a strong storm, a powerhouse storm well east of Ireland on Monday night into Tuesday that swings an arm of rain into Ireland and England, then a break, and then the weather looks kind of dry for the end of the week for much of Europe. And into the weekend, it doesn't look like there's too much happening going in through this week once we get through whatever rain we get through during the early part of the week. Very, very interesting weather pattern here in the United States, though, that's setting up going into next week and a little bit beyond that. So let me just come back to you guys on the board here. It's a Saturday. It's trying to get a bit of a rest, I guess. I did try to do a little bit of fishing today. Thank you, JC WeatherNet. Really appreciate it. Hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you very much. Tried to do a little fishing today before the backdoor front came through. Wasn't too successful, but at least got to spend a little relaxation time, which is always important. Good to see everybody on board tonight. Sorry, my eyesight's just a little off here. Just checking some of your comments. Timothy, you're at 28 already. Have you started precipitating where you are? I'd be curious, and just let everybody know in general what your location is. Delvin, you're in Boston. I'd be curious. You have that winter weather advisory up for you too. So I'm wondering what your temperature is there. John Trabacchino enjoyed the great 40s this afternoon, but now mid-30s in North Williamstown in the northern Berkshires. Get ready for some sleet and freezing rain up your way. Maybe some snowflakes coming in the mix. Thank you, JC WeatherNet. I really appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes I am a little disorganized. You know what happens is I kind of have an idea when I'm starting my show what I'm going to do, and then while I'm doing it, I think of something else. So I wind up jumping around and struggling talking to you guys, and then doing all the technical things that I have to do at the same time. It's multitasking in a very, very tough way. And mid-April, Shelly Man Studios, and still snowing. It certainly is. Just moving right along here. We just lost you, Timothy Veltman. There you go. Have I tried Pivotal Weather? I like the ice accretion maps for all the models. It may be something to want to add to your videos. I've emailed them several times asking if they would mind if I used it on my live streams, and they never respond to me. And I don't want to use something without asking. Levi Cowan of Tropical Tidbits is he's okay with it. So thankfully, and thank you, Levi. TropicalTidbits.com. Those are the maps that I use on a nightly basis. A nice accretion map would be nice, Levi. But I've messaged them several times. I would like to use them, but they never answer me. So what am I going to do? Always smiling. It looks pretty good for you guys. Once you get through any rain that the models are showing for Sunday and Monday and maybe into early Tuesday, but after that, it looks like the weather for the rest of the week looks pretty reasonable. Although I know it tends to rain quite a bit in Ireland as you get these showers that come in from off the ocean, understandably so. But nonetheless, it looks like you're getting into a dry, mild pattern there. Would that we could get, we had these 2 really warm days here. I mean, what a gift they were considering how it's been so far this month with temperatures below average. But next week is going to be another cooler than average week ahead of us. As long as, my feeling on that is as long as we don't get into an onshore flow like we will here tomorrow, I can handle it. Handle the cooler than normal temperatures it's when you get that onshore flow and you wind up with just, the low clouds, drizzle, light rain, yuck. That's just yuck. The Met Office says 17 Celsius. Well, that's 60s for you, but we'll have to wait and see. I think it's doable. I think you're going to see 60s up your way. Makes a whole lot of sense to me. By the way, I did put up a video just before I did the live stream on the, what happened here. I shot it from outside my house. So after you're done here, if you want to go take a look at that, I did post that. It's on the video library on my YouTube channel. Just trying to get your comments here. Was that me you mentioned earlier in your video? Yes, it was, David. I did mention you. Yes. Ray C. Just tuned in. Any ice in the forecast for the Capital District? Also, can I go outside without a coat on? Need some heat up here. Yeah, you're in the cold air. Yeah, I think you're going to probably see some tomorrow with that 32-degree line. In situations like this, with these fronts that come down from the north and high pressure building in eastern Canada, a lot of times the very bottom of the atmosphere winds up colder than modeled. The GFS, for some reason, has been warmer than all the models, and certainly warmer than the NAM, which brings the 32-degree line almost close to me. So I'm thinking, yeah, you're going to get into some icing here on Sunday. I don't know how severe it's going to be, but if you get into a good chunk of precip, you could wind up with some semi-serious icing up along I-90, especially west toward Rochester, Syracuse, on up toward Buffalo. I think there's going to be some serious icing in those areas. Whether that precip arm extends to the east in time for when the cold air is there for where you are in the Capital District, it's a little questionable, but you certainly might get some. And yes, tough driving conditions in South Carolina, Aaron Raybert. Because you've got a severe weather risk to deal with tomorrow. I'm going to pull it up. I can do it faster off screen, but let me pull up the Storm Prediction Center for tomorrow. And looks like they've expanded it a little bit. I'll bring this up. I'll bring this up on the screen for everybody. So it just needs a little time to load. There we go. So, okay. So let's come back to the screen. I'll pull up the Storm Prediction Center's severe weather risk for tomorrow. And so this is, again, in review. We've got tonight's severe weather risk with the radar overlaid. And you see it here. You know, the general area of thunderstorms goes pretty far up. And notice, by the way, the risk of thunderstorms in the area where we have the blizzard warning. So I'm sure there is thunder snow that's probably going on in some places there. I don't see anything on the radar on the wide shot. I have to pull up the tighter shots to do that. Here's the severe weather risk for tomorrow. And it looks like the Storm Prediction Center has actually elevated this a little bit. I want to show you that it covers the entire state of Florida, marginal risk in the Keys. And then the slight risk goes up through to the Panhandle, except the far west, much of the southeastern half of Georgia, most of South Carolina, most of North Carolina, and a good chunk of the state of Virginia, the northern edge of the slight risk moving into the southern Delmarva Peninsula with a marginal risk up into Delaware and Maryland. And they actually do have even a general area of thunderstorms as far north as me. I think that I could see some thunderstorms here later Sunday night into Monday as that cold front approaches and we get into that big impulse of heavy rain that the model is that all the models are showing us. But yeah, the severe weather risk for you in South Carolina could be a rocky day here, since this storm has had a history of producing some severe weather. It looks to me like we'll probably run into some more tomorrow. I'm going to go to the NAM. Let's go to the 3-kilometer NAM. Spend a little time on the severe weather risk here. And see what the 3-kilometer NAM has to say. And we use the 3-kilometer because it has a very, very tight grid. And it should be superior when it comes to thunderstorms. So here it is. It's all loaded up. So we'll go back to the beginning. And you can see tonight's weather here on there, really firing up a line tonight across Mississippi down into southeastern Louisiana. 2 lines of thunderstorms there, and then that line holds up together overnight. I actually woke up this morning and saw that there were tornado watches up overnight, which you don't see too often, but it does happen. And here's the line as it fires up during the day Sunday across the Florida Panhandle through Georgia, extending on up into Kentucky and even into Ohio. That's a pretty impressive area of thunderstorms here as the low center pivots northward up through West Virginia and into western Pennsylvania. So then tomorrow night, as that line moves across South and North Carolina and into coastal Virginia, and then you get into those heavy rains and some of those thunderstorms likely to hold together through Monday morning as they move toward the New York City, Long Island, and southern New England area. So looking pretty fierce here on the 3-kilometer NAM as far as severe weather is concerned. I think this is going to be a fairly healthy severe weather event that we're going to see Sunday into Monday. I'm going to try. Give me a second here. I'll try and pull up the radar, the current radar, and get a better view of what's actually showing up on there. So just give me a second here, and let me see. Where are you? Okay, radar. And open image in new tab. Here we go. Awesome. Here we go. I'll bring up. There's the national radar at the moment. And I can make it bigger, or attempt to make it bigger anyway. So here we go. So here's a full-scale view of what's happening. Is the 3-kilometer dam seems to be a little overdeveloped and overzealous with how it handles the line, but there is a line of strong storms this evening moving across southeastern Mississippi and into southernmost Alabama, north and east of there. There are some heavier echoes that are moving northwestward through Wisconsin. And you can see that arc of heavy snow that goes back through Minnesota and into western Iowa eastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, southeastern South Dakota, and then, of course, the rains that are advecting northeastward up through the Ohio Valley and across New York State. And that a lot of that in that northern fringe there in upstate New York now falling as freezing rain. So got a very, very active night ahead of us, and we're going to have a very active day ahead of us tomorrow all the way around in terms of snow, in terms of ice, heavy rains, severe thunderstorms, possibly even some tornadoes. None of this would shock me. Again, this has been, in my view, this is quite the storm that is impacting the eastern part of the eastern half of the United States. Pretty much everybody from the Rockies eastward getting hammered with something. Raymond's on tonight. Oh, I just lost your comment, Raymond. Where is it? I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. I thought I saw you there. I lost your comment there, Raymond. Anthony Orr, temperature drop, very impressive on Long Island, 25 in 2 hours. Absolutely, it certainly was. And by the way, the wind has been impressive too, running at every bit of 20 to 35 miles an hour. It's blowing a gale out here right now. Palette, never seeing that many different weather effects from one major storm in my entire life. I have to tell you, it's because of the fact that it is in April that we're seeing all this crazy stuff going on all over the place. Every warning imaginable is up, including the red flag warning for fire danger still in parts of Texas. You've got the wind advisories and high wind warnings. You've got severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, sleet, freezing rain, heavy snow, blizzard conditions. It's crazy. The radar really kind of exemplifies just the widespread impact that this storm is having. And even in areas that aren't getting anything now, across the southeastern part of the United States, up the East Coast to New Jersey, where temperatures made it up into the 80s today. I mean, and people enjoyed a beautiful, almost June type of day as opposed to mid-April. And certainly in comparison to the kind of weather we've had, those 80-degree temperatures were definitely welcome. Yes, Anthony Orr, thanks for pointing that out to me yesterday. At one point, I did mention it last night on my live stream, how you had a severe thunderstorm warning and a blizzard warning going on at the same time. Now, in the spot where that severe thunderstorm warning was going on, they were not experiencing blizzard conditions yet. That was ahead of everything, so it was in the process of changing over. So it ushered in the blizzard, which, having a thunderstorm and a fierce storm like this, probably is to be expected. A severe thunderstorm is a bit much. So I guess with the fact that the cell was probably quite strong, that caused them to put that warning up. But yeah, highly unusual. Michael Bologna, no ice where you are. No ice here, at least. I'm trying to remember, Michael, where exactly you are located. But if you're up the Hudson Valley and further north, you are going to see some up your way. I would be shocked to see that 32-degree line make it to me. I really would. Even though the NAM is the most aggressive of them all, it just misses getting that down to me. So crazy weather here on this Saturday, March 14th, 2018. Thanks very much, everyone, for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. It's a Saturday night. It's a weekend. A lot of folks like to spend their time doing things on the weekend. As I actually got some yard work done today, some much needed yard work and yard cleaning, bagging leaves. Spent the morning and the first part of the afternoon doing that. So I hope you folks were also equally productive. Thanks again for joining me on a nightly basis. I really appreciate that. Check out any latest website posts are on meteorologistjoecioffi.com. Angry Ben has New York City covered on nycweathernow.com. And again, if you there's one other video. I did post it up on the video library, so you go ahead and take a look at that. That was from 2 hours ago when the backdoor front had already passed through. Delve into live stream tomorrow. Yep, we'll live stream tomorrow, probably tomorrow evening. We'll see how the day goes. If I'm stuck in the house and can't really do very much outside, maybe I'll live stream a little bit earlier in the day. But definitely we'll get a live stream on for Sunday. Always smiling. Your weather station is 500 pounds. It cost you 500 pounds? Wow. That's some weather station you got. Well, I'd be curious as to what kind of weather station it is. If you can't respond, we're going off the air now. So if we can't respond now, next time I see you, I will try and remember to ask. All right, folks, have a great rest of your evening, and we will see you tomorrow right here on my YouTube channel.